Hello everybody, welcome to the Festival of Flowers. So this is our new Fleurs collection and you're going to get 4 different items in this. So you're going to get your Poppy Perfection, which is this one, and there's actually 2 lots and there's a reason for it being in the middle and over the edge. So we'll go through that momentarily. Then you're going to get your floral centre. So which is this one, and I'll go through the boards with this. Then you're going to also have your all day, everyday flower and leaves. So this is quite substantial because there's lots of nested going on in this and with the leaves. And then finally, we've got our floral fringe centres. And again, there's lots of ways of using this. So it's a bit exciting that we've got other things to be able to show you. So those are the 4 that you will have already got home. And here's the boards. So as I said, with the poppy, you've got an over the edge. So like so. Now this is your cut line. So I'll take that off so you can see the petal. So this is the cut line around the edge, and this here is a score line that is going to go over the edge. And that we've done it like that for several reasons. We've done it so we can give you more. So we've got a lot more sizes and variations of petals on here for you. And also it means that it helps with size-wise, because if you imagine if we gave you that as one big petal like that, and then did them all like this, we'd have to give you another set of dies for this one. So that's why we've made them in half. And also it's a really nice shape to do this mirror imaging with, which is fabulous. But also, when you're working with your fleurs and your cardstock, you get this centre line, which is sometimes what we need when we're thinking about the veining and aligning also all our flowers. But it also works really well with the leaves too. So that's our first poppy. Then, that's our poppies. Then we go on to the one that's got all of this in. So this is this set. So we've got lots and lots of different variations. Now, how I've worked this to build the flowers, I use the outside edges all together. Then I use the next size all together. So I use the biggest, then the next, and that makes you a really nice bloom. It's quite full. So again, we'll talk around that when I start actually building it. And then you also get the leaves. Now the leaves, we've done it again where we've done over the edge, okay? And there's a reasoning behind that as well. And I'll show you when we get to actually building. These go onto your crepe paper at a 45-degree angle, and it automatically then gives you the grain or the leaf veining, which is just wonderful. Then we have our poppy leaves. And then we have our big leaves. So we've got a lot going on here. Can you see how many sizes? And these are going to be fabulous for those big statement pieces, because some of these poppies that we're going to be building are huge once you've actually put them together. So they're going to need leaves quite substantial. And then we have our little centres. Now, again, these are oval for a reason, but I'll go through that with you a little bit more. And you also have to place them on with the grain. And that way, when you stretch them, it's big enough to go over our little polystyrene balls, which we've got. And then we've got the frill. Now, this is used all 3 together to create that centre of the poppy. But it also creates a thistle. So I'm going to show you how to build this as well. So we've got lots to go through. Those are my dies. I've actually cut pretty much everything out, so it just makes it a little bit easier for you all to follow. Now, first of all, we're going to build the festival, okay? So this is our all day, everyday flower. So this is the one where you've got all those sizes. So I'll bring that in like so. So that's what builds this one, okay? And it's absolutely beautiful. So again, changing the colourways that you've got, inking them differently are going to create some absolutely incredible blooms. But like I've just said, using each one, coming down in size, doesn't mean that you can't do the whole bloom all in that big one. So can you imagine how many flowers you're actually going to get from this? So that's why we've called it your all day, every day, because there's so much going on here, even down to these little tiny ones. So if you've got, these would be great for your cards. So these are going to go on the front of your cards. But also if you've got dolls' houses and things like that, miniatures, you can work in miniature with some of these. So let's pop one of these together. So I'll have it to the side so you can see roughly where we're going to go. First of all, we need one of our foam balls, and this is the 2 centimetre one, okay, 20 millimetre. And then we're going to need our centre. Now, I've got everything ready here. Where are my centres? Here they are. So these are all my centres, and as you can see, I've cut quite a few. And they're all in different sizes, okay, and colours, because all your centres are going to be different variations, aren't they? You're not going to have them all the same colour, especially if you're changing the fringing, which is something else we're going to do as well. So I am going to go with an orange one, and the beauty of having this is that you can cut more than one in one go. One pass through the machine, it's going to get you lots and lots of cuts. So pop them in there, keeping it tidy. So when you lay this on, I've got some crepe paper here. I'll pick up, I'm going to choose the biggest one just so it's easier for you to see on the camera. Now, as you can see, we've got this grain running up and down, and we actually need to cut these and place this on this way. And that's because we need to be able to stretch this so it's going to fit around the actual polystyrene ball. And we can do that because we've worked with the grain, okay? So now this is going to be big enough to wrap the polystyrene ball, okay? So that's why we have to lay this on this way. It could actually be a petal all in its own right if you wanted it to be. So that's how we use the centres. Just remember that tip about going with the grain. Now, for actually putting all this together, you're going to need a hot glue gun for your centre, your polystyrene ball to actually go into your wire into your polystyrene ball. And it's easier because I pop a little bit of glue on the end here. Now the polystyrene melts with heat, and instead of trying to put this wire in dry and then pulling it out and actually putting it in again, with the heat of that glue, it helps you push the ball into it because it's melting the ball as it goes in, and because you're pushing the glue inside with the wire, it's a much firmer fix. And then as that's cooled off, I just literally go around that edge and flatten that little ball down like so. Any excess you can just pull away. And then we want to do our little centre. Now this goes on with wet glue, so I just put a little bit, I just go side to side. I don't go mad with the wet glue because obviously you're adding moisture to your crepe paper, and so it'll take a little bit longer to dry. So I just use my finger, go around the edge like so, and then I take the ball, stand it in the middle and pull up these two sides like so, okay, and that one. Try not to pull too much, because if you pull on it too much, you'll split your paper. So I've got those two sides, I've got a little opening, and I'm going to tuck that down. I've got another little one, I'm going to tuck that down, and then that one, and it creates these lovely little pleats. And then I'll flip it over and do exactly the same on this side. So pull the centre, pull that edge and that edge, and then I literally just pull all of this together nicely, and then I'm just gently holding where all that paper is, and I'm just going to rotate so it's all glued together. And if you wanted to, you can add a little bit more wet glue to make sure that all stays in place, but by the time we've actually put everything else on here, it will stay in place. So that's the centre to this. Now, something else that is on the show that you may have purchased are these, and these are brilliant. They are alcohol markers, and when they actually tint or colour the paper, the crepe paper especially, it bleeds through. So you haven't got to flip it over and do the other side, which is such a time saver. So you can also, in addition, add a little bit of extra to these. So I'm going to take the orange. And again, you've got two ends. They're a lovely rectangle, so they're not going to roll off your desk. And then in the middle, I'm just going to add a few little dots. And again, this is like, you've got poetic license here to change all of this up. You might have got some pollen pieces or glitter would be lovely on here if you were doing these for Christmas, because we've got some gorgeous luxury colours in that paper pack that we've had. So just a few little dots in the centre of the flower. Pop that back in there. And like I say, these are a fabulous buy. If you've got those, that is brilliant. And then I'm going to choose the colourway of my flower. So like I say, I've got quite a few bits actually over here. And being as though I've got the orange, I am going to stick with the orange one, just so you can see how it was built. So now to make this, you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 of your larger ones. Four of the next one, and then 3 of the smaller, okay? So that is what you're going to need for the all day, every day, to get a bloom that looks like this. And then we get our inks. Now it's entirely up to you how you ink all of this up and the colourways you go with. So on this occasion, I'm just going to change it up a little bit in each one. But when you're inking with your actual whether it's VersaFine or whichever ones are your choice, you will have to ink both sides. So I'm just going to add a little bit of ink on this side, flip it over and do the reverse as well. So the same again. On all of these. So I start with the middle ones. And then we're going to change the edge. So we're going to work on the outside edge to give the shape, okay? So we're going to change the edge first before we do the, create that little bowl that then pulls the actual flower, the petal. It gives it the little bowl shape. So just all of these. And again, you can change all this up because you've got some beautiful colourways, but there is a little top tip that I'm going to show you when I do the poppy. Because there's lots, and none of these techniques are new. You can find all of this on the internet as well. But I think if you're new to actually using the product, it's nice to introduce a couple of new techniques if you've not seen them before. So, and it works beautifully with the darker colours, the next one as well. So that's number 4. And then these, I'll just ink on this side just so you've got a... And there's no rhyme or reason. Like you can see, I'm not being particularly gentle with it while I'm doing this. It's just a case of getting that ink laid down. You can actually, as you can see, I'm inking this one from this edge, but some of the poppies that I've done, I've gone from the inside edge. When I've done this, I'm going to bring in a couple of the samples so you can actually see what I mean. I brought them in with me and then ignored them. They're at the side of me, so I apologise. Like so. And then the last one. But I think it's nice to build it from start to finish for you, because one, you may craft along with me and or have it all cut out ready and craft along so you can see where we're going. But also I think it's good that you do see from start to finish, so I'm not jumping about and only showing you little snips. So that's all of those inked. And then in here somewhere, just give me a second while I find it. I've got a little... no, I haven't. I shall have to use... It's okay, I can use one of the wires. So this, you can use anything, okay? So I normally use a little wooden stick, or you can use a paintbrush, depending on what you want. Let's try with a paintbrush. So what we're going to do now is curl the edge. And I tend to try and do it in 3s or maybe even 4s, depending on how big they are. Now, I did it in 4s when I did the petals for the poppy because of how it works. But let me just bring this in so I can show you. So these are the flowers we're making currently. These 4 on the outside. And then this one in the middle is one of the big poppies. Now you can see how substantial these actually are. So again, they're going to look fabulous, absolutely fabulous. So you can make something quite small for your cards or really big ornate pieces. So that is one of them. That's a lovely little wreath, and it's just using a broken embroidery hoop. One of the pieces broke, so I saved the other piece, and that's what I've used for that. So again, I love the fact that you can upcycle with all of this. So I'm just going to hold that to the edge and curl that over and roll. So as long as you've got something that's a cylinder, you know, got an edge to it, it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to roll again, okay? And then for all of these, I'm actually going to roll them away from me. But I'm going to roll them in 3 because of rolling them in 3s, you're going to get this piece here where it's got a kink in it. So they're not all just... What I'm not doing is starting here with this one and just rolling the whole thing down. I'm moving this around and rolling it in stages. And by doing that, you get a far more variegated edge. So you're going to change that edge up every time you do it. And then also you're going to get something that looks far more natural. Like I say, normally I would use a little cocktail stick, and I use my snips and take the points off. Or I would use a little wooden barbecue skewer to do this. So this one, again, I'm working in a 3, taking it to the edge, and I'm rolling all of them away from me to build this. And then when we do the cup, I'll show you what a difference it makes to actually do it in this order. So you wouldn't cup and then do the shaping. You need to do it this way around. And then obviously if you're using your fleurs or you're using cardstock, you can do the same thing, but you would need more petals because you're not going to be able to do the cup and pull that bloom open. So if I was using fleurs or cardstock, I would add at least 2 extra petals to each one of these layers. But it is doable. It would just look a little bit different. And then this is the smaller one. So we've done the larger one, we've done the medium, and now I'm working on the small one. And the more random it is that when you actually roll your cards, your paper around your little, whether it be wire or, like I say, a cocktail stick, the better and more natural they actually look. So the next piece, before we glue them all on, is I'm just going to pinch my finger and thumb below where where we've rolled it to. I am not going to change the shape of this at all. I'm not going to pull it all open. We're just going to cup this little piece in the middle. So if I hold my fingers like that, it's literally, you stretch that piece in the middle. You don't touch this here, okay? It's just that piece in the middle. So let's do that again. So finger and thumb, just below where we've rolled, and just stretch that little bit. And if you rip it, it doesn't matter, because obviously sometimes we find flowers that the lovely little animals have had a little nibble at. So even if I pull it and I tear it, I still use it and pop it in. Sometimes if I tear it, I do go back in and put a little bit more ink on there just to make it look a little bit more realistic. But the same thing again where we're cupping is below where we've curled, and just give it a little. So you're pushing your thumbs down and pulling your fingers away, okay, to get this little cup going on. And that is really what you do with all of them when we're shaping these. So that's those. And again, it's the same, but it's the bigger the petal, the more you actually pull it. So this crepe is wonderful because it's got 180% stretch. So when you stretch these, because there's more to stretch because it's bigger, it leaves a deeper cup on it. So now we can go back to the centre of our flower, which we have here, and we're going to start building. So this piece what we didn't touch this is obviously the top, this is the base, and where we're going to glue it is to the here. Okay, not all the way down here, we're just going to start at this point here. So bring in my hot glue gun, because this is one of the quicker ways. And I don't load up too much hot glue, okay? If I actually put some on, as you can see, I'm then spreading that out, okay? And that goes on there as my first one, and make sure it's secure. So that is the first petal. And then, again, a little bit of glue, and then I spread it out. And then we're going to overlap this. So these three that go on first go on overlapped, and it's almost like a little triangle that we're creating. So that's the first two. And then the third is going on like so. And just give it a little squeeze to pop it into place. Now that on its own is a beautiful little bud, isn't it? I'm just going to shorten this wire so it's a bit easier for me to manoeuvre. There we go. So that in its own is a lovely little bud. So if you cut 4 or 5 of these and glued them on overlapping, that again would create another little bud of a flower, which is fabulous. So then we move on to the next one. And again, not too much glue. When you put it on, use the tip of your hot glue gun to spread it out a little bit. And now I'm holding the actual ball, and that's going to give me a really steady surface for me to keep hold of while I pop that on like so, okay? And this one I did overlap, okay? And we're now putting 4 on, okay? So I'll do opposites first. So again, not too much glue. I'm holding the ball and I've gone opposites, but even though I've gone opposites, I am still trying to overlap that one. Okay, so we've got a little bit of overlapping going on so it looks more natural. Again, spread it out. Don't put too much on because you don't want them to become too bulky at the base here. So that is that one. Aren't they beautiful? When they start coming together, and when you've actually got it all out shaped and inked, you can do a batch of these and do quite a few, and they actually build really quite quickly. But again, I hold on to the actual little foam bowl. So that's that one. So that's our second layer. And then finally, this one. And now I am going to overlap because now I know I've got the 4. But on this one, you can pinch them in a little bit, like so. So you're adding a more fuller flower. A little bit of glue. I'm overlapping. I just touch it in the middle and then gather it in a little bit, like so. Okay, and then we've got 2 more of those. And every now and again, as I'm doing this, actually have a look at the front and think, does anything want moving round? Do I want to fill a space differently? So it's not always, you know, you're not looking for precision and perfection with some of these flowers. You're wanting, as long as they're overlapped, you're looking for a more natural look. So now I'm going to have a little look. I quite like that, but that is going to go at this side. And again, just going to pinch them together a little bit and put that in place. So that is our first bloom, okay? So that is our all day, everyday flower. And then you can manipulate these. You know, you can open them up. You can be quite rough with them actually. Okay, so we can really open them up. And then if you wanted to add even more colour, so that one I've curled a little bit differently. I curled a lot more on the edges, but you can see, aren't they just beautiful? And that one I left plain in the middle, but I've gone ahead and done the little dots on this one. Okay, so that is the first one, all day, every day, but there's lots of other different ways that will bring to you of different shapes of how you can build this. So that's number one. So leave that to one side. Now, this is the poppy. So if I bring that in and show you like that, aren't they beautiful? And can you see, again, like I was saying, how big these can be? They really are substantial flowers. Look at those. Aren't they glorious? Now, there's two different ways that I've inked this one, like I was suggesting earlier. I've inked in the middle, outwards, and then I've used a different technique on this burgundy, which I'll show you. So pop that to one side. Now, first of all, to build it, we're going to need a wire and we're going to need a little ball. And we're going to do the same thing again. Use the hot glue to put the wire in. And I've cut many of these and they're all joined together. So just takes a little second to separate them. There we go. And like I say, have lots cut because, I mean, we've used, this is a 2 centimetre ball. We've got a 1.5 centimetre as well. But on top of all of that, you can use your bigger ones. So just because we're using these ones, you could make, you know, there's 4, 5, even, you know, 10 centimetre ones. So you could really make some huge flowers. So I'm just going to let that set a second and then we're going to add on. Now, remember the little tip I told you about this, to make sure that you have it on with the grain. So it makes this shape. So the grain is running top to bottom here. And that way you've got all of this stretch. And then we go for the wet glue. So we use the hot glue to actually put the wire in. And because that actually melts the polystyrene and it makes it a lot easier, 1, to put the wire in, and 2, the glue goes inside. So it's going to actually be a lot firmer. I've popped my glue on my crepe paper, folded it up in the middle to meet each side. And just as before, I'm just going to tap that down. Try not to pull and stretch it because you will tear it. And then just as before, even though it's a different size one, it doesn't matter. Fold the middle and fold in those edges. And then again, same again, fold in the middle and fold down those 2 edges. We're just making little pleats really. And the actual crepe does take quite a bit of, you know, you can be quite rough with it. You just have to be careful with it having glue on. And it's like any paper, it can just fall apart. So what I'm doing now is I've gathered all the edges, I've got hold of it, and I'm just rotating that ball in one direction. And I just keep pinching where the paper all comes together. So that is that piece. Now the next thing is, this is where these fabulous pens come in, because we're going to make a black centre. And we're literally, I'm not going to go all the way down, but I'm just going to colour it in. Can you see how fabulous these pens are on the crepe paper? It just bleeds straight through, which is exactly what we want, because we don't want to be, you know, I know we do with the actual other inking, but when we're doing something like this, and especially when I show you the fringing, because that takes up a bit of time and you don't want to be spending all your time on the fringing. So that's now coloured. Now the fringing, I'm going to do this one. What colour poppy I'm going to go for? Let's have a look. I've got one out. We'll go with this one. So I am going to do orange. So now the fringing, what we've got here is the dies. You've got 3 different dies. Okay. And each die, they're all the same height, all the same width, but each one is cut thinner. So we've got a thick one, a medium one, and a really fine one. And you need to place these on your crepe paper this way. So your crepe paper is going that way. That's the grain, as you can see. And these need to sit on here like that. And as you can see, a little top tip, I've just I've taped mine together so it's just easier, and then I run them through and I get one fringe all in one go, because we're going to use all 3 of them. Okay, so tape them together, but that's how you lay them onto your grain. Then you actually give them a little bit of a pull. So can you see, this is where that 180% stretch comes into its own, because this creates a fabulous fringe. Okay, so that is that one. I'm going to do it on all 3. Move that to that side. And I've worked out, for me personally, I like to have this wider fringe sandwiched in the middle of the other 2. Okay. So, and then I flatten all those down, because it just makes it easier when we're gluing them together. And then finally on this one, like so. All these will separate. Like so, they'll all come apart. They're just held together a little bit with some of they'll all come apart. So now I'm going to start on the middle one. So I add my glue to the middle, like so. Just a little bead all the way along here, and I don't do it all in one go. I've tried to do that to be clever, and I end up in a mess. So this now sits on top. Stretch the bottom, stretch the top, and just run your fingers down and glue it. Again, on there. So what I do is I put my finger on and just give it a little stretch. Line them up. Same again. And this is why I do it a little bit at a time. So just pull those out like so. Oops. Stretch that one. So that's one fringe. And now I'm going to glue this one on there, because I want the larger fringe in the middle. Okay, so I'm doing the same thing again. Put that fringe on there. Keep going along. I actually did quite a few of these. I did a whole roll of green, and then I sat and did this bit, so I'd got fringes ready, raring to go for when I was building my flowers. Like so. Now I've got my fringe, and I need a little bit of colour on here now. And this again is where those pens come in, because they're fabulous. So using the chisel end, I'll pull it in so you can see. All we're going to do is add a little bit of colour a third of the way. And just by doing this, it actually goes all the way through to the other side as well. So you only have to do one edge, which is just brilliant when you think how much of a fringe you've got. And I keep where this is in one spot. So if I'm using my glass mat, which is what I usually work on, the ink is still underneath as well. So I'm getting the most out of my pen because it's also on the other side once it's bled through. You end up with a little patch where the ink is. Just keep going, and like I say, just a third. I'm just gently, and I'm keeping hold of the fringe at the bottom, if you can see, just so I don't pull on it too much. All the way along. And it doesn't really matter if you miss a few bits, because again, that adds to what it looks like it would be naturally. So we're going for something as natural as we can possibly, or as close to it as we can get. Obviously, when we're using paper and things, like so. So that is my fringe ready to go. And then we're going to use the wet glue again. So I'm going to bring this in. First of all, I'm going to put a curl on it. Okay, so I'm just going to curl, and I'm curling away. Now, normally, like I say, I use a little cocktail stick or something, or you can use your pokey tool, but this brush is working quite well. Again, hold on to this piece here, because if you're a little bit rough, you could be pulling some of your little fringing off. So go all the way along. On all of these techniques, it's all, you know, everybody's done this previously. It's just that for our new ones, I just want to make sure that you all get to see how we build them. So now, go back to the wet glue. And I've now got my poppy head, okay, my centre. So I'm going to pop a little bit of wet glue, and I tend to work from the left edge and wrap it round, so this side. And I'm going to lay it up to where I've put that black on there, okay? And just bring it round and shape it down to the actual ball. And then again, add our our glue, sorry. And just tap it down where that is. And again. And then keep going. And this what makes that beautiful full centre. It is absolutely gorgeous. So when we finish this and pulled it all out in the middle, it looks incredible. Because we're using wet glue, if I turn that, if you keep giving that a little bit of a squeeze, you're going to get this lovely edge. Okay, so just keep going. Just keep giving it a little press. And that's another one of the fabulous ways of using the crepe paper, is that you can actually manipulate it with the glue. You don't get really defined, strong edges, which then leaves something really quite lovely. Okay, like so. I've got a little bit there that I'm just going to capture like this. So that is our poppy centre. Now, one of the things we can do when we've done a poppy centre is then go on and make a thistle. Now, you make two of these. I've obviously done one in the purple and one in the green. But the green, so I've made the purple one exactly the same as this. The green one, when I frilled it on the inside, I've applied it to a second ball, but fraying outwards. There's two balls here on top of one another. So you make one and leave the wire. You make a second one. This one, you push into the top of the foam ball of the first, and then you put your fringing on again, but the other way on. So the thistle is really easy to build. So now I want to share with you this little technique. And it's lovely. And this is how we're going to create this. Okay, where we've got this on the end. So this isn't actually inking. This is using bleach, because we can actually remove the colour out of our flower. Especially it looks really striking in these darker ones. Now for the poppy, you need 4 small and 4 large. Or should I say, in fact, let me bring that in to make it, I would use 2 sizes. So if I use this big one, I use the next one. If I use this one, I use the next one. So I use whatever size petal I choose, I use the next one down as the middle ones, okay? That's entirely up to you if you do it that way, but that's I've found how you get a really strong looking poppy. And then when you're actually building them, to cut them out, we go like this. So I have the leading edge on my left, fold it over, and the poppy, I just fold it over enough so it's actually wide enough for the petal, and then that edge goes off of the edge. I put a little bit of tape and then cut that out. Well, I snip down here to actually take that piece away. So I'm only working on this piece, and then I'll cut that one out, and then I'll move it and cut that one out. Or you can then use your scissors and snip this. So you've got another piece, lay them on top of one another, and then you're cutting 2 petals out at a time. So it's really easy. And I do that with all of them. So that's how we get the petal, and it's over the edge, it's in half. And that way we've managed to bring you 2 different edges to the petals, to the poppies, which is a lot better, a lot more value for money, okay? So you're getting more here. So that's that one. And you just have to separate when you've cut them. I actually cut all 4 of these in one go, so I did exactly what I told you. Cut down that whole length and then laid them on top of one another and cut them in one go. But this, I love this. Be very careful when you're doing this, because obviously it is bleach. So I've got my apron on. I shall take my sleeve up out of the way. I've decanted a small amount of bleach in here, and I'm using a fine paintbrush, okay? And all I'm going to do is work with the grain again, and you will see how quickly this goes. You do this across all of them. And where you get a little gap, just dab that on, and it doesn't matter. And look how fabulous that's going to go. But that paper will take that, because it's a liquid, it'll draw it in and it'll stop when it wants to. So you get this lovely effect. What you can also do with them is just rub it along the edge like so, or have a wider flat brush. Just dab it across the edge and leave them to one side, because it will bleed and it will stop when it wants to. So then each petal is going to be different. And that's how I did this one. So this is the pale pink, and I just touched the brush along all the edges and left them to dry, and it bled differently on all of the leaves. So it gives you a fabulous different way of working with it. So I'm going to just quickly, and like I say, you can see how random I'm being. I'm not really thinking about where I'm actually popping this. Like so. And it doesn't take it very long to dry. You don't have to put the whole bottle on. You can see that I'm wiping quite a bit of it off in the top of the bottle. It's a very small amount. If you do it where you use a flat brush, you might have to leave it a little bit longer to dry. So on these you can see that I'm making longer strokes, taking it a little bit further down. And then when I finish with this bottle, I put the lid back on straight away. And if you do, you know, I know this technique isn't going to be for everybody, but if you can, you know, open a window. So use all the usual safety precautions. Put that lid back on. That is out of the way. And then I've got these fabulous petals. And it's so quick and easy. So now I'm going to do exactly the same thing as we did earlier. And just add shape to my petals. But in a random, so now for this one, I am going forwards and backwards. I would let these dry a little bit more usually, but I want to get on and finally show you. So I'm going to show you one of the leaves because the leaves are done in exactly the same way. Okay, the secret to the leaves is cutting the actual crepe on that 45-degree angle, so you get that beautiful natural looking veining to your flower. Can you see how these, sometimes it's stopped and it might bleed a little bit more, but it's such a natural way of making things look like this, and it's because of using the crepe paper that we're able to do this. So there's something called laminating as well that we could do, and then do this with. Again, all of that is to come. So the laminating process, you glue 2 different colour papers together and then use the bleach, and one paper bleeds into the other. So again, you get a fabulous looking, natural looking one. So now we've done all of that, we're going to use exactly the same pinching technique. So just under where we've actually shaped, same again, finger and thumb, fingers at the back, and just give it a little shape, like so. So there's 4 for the middle. And look at that, look at that. When we've actually done that, so the bleach has done all of that effect for us, but then when we build these together, it's fabulous. But that is because we've got the actual crepe paper. So again, these look quite small, but once I actually cup that, I'm not bothered that I've ripped that. It's again, leaving that edge. So what I'm going to do, if you do that, just tuck that in. And that is still my petal. I'm going to leave that as it is. And again, when we pull it, look how it opens up all on that edge. And then finally that last one. And now we can build around the centre. So remember, we've got this fabulous centre. And we've got 4. So again, just a little bit. And we're actually going to build to the base there, look. Take it right down to that base. 1. Turn it over. 2. Oops. 3. And again, they're all to the base. And you do the same for all of these. And then 4. Like so. Look at that. And then these we're going to overlap. So where we've got the 4 at the base, if I flip that over, where we've got 2 joining, that is where the next one goes. Same again, we've got 2 joining. That flips on there. This one that we ripped, not particularly bothered. Sometimes if I'd not used the bleach technique, I would have gone in and inked that edge. But I'm happy with that edge being like that because it just looks like somebody's had a little nibble, which they would have done. And then finally, on that last one, to the base. Now let me get rid of all of these little curly cues. Look at that. Isn't that fabulous? But then what we do is we go in, we find the middle of the poppy, and we pull all that out, like so. Like I say, it takes quite a lot. It's quite happy for you to pull on the paper like this. And even though you've bent it, you've curved it, so it will stay like that. But look how incredible that is. And all that is a little bit of crepe paper. We've done the inking, we've assembled it all. Isn't it fabulous? So You can also go ahead and make this, but I'm going to do another little video for this because this needs a little bit of attention all on its own, I think. So you've gone ahead and made these, but very quickly, the leaves. So you get your paper, and this is quite important. So I'm going to use the bigger leaves because it's easier for you all to see. So we've done the leaves like this, and again we've got a score edge and we've got a cutting edge. Now to cut the leaf, you need to have it on a 45-degree angle. Now how I've been using this is this straight edge here to this leaf is how I've been lining it up, okay? You can actually fold it in half, like this. And again, I only ever fold enough for the actual leaf. I don't go over, make sure that's just enough to fit that on and then cut that out, okay? But you will have to trim some of this out here. So this is your cut edge. When you've cut this out, snip and snip, and then you need to cut along this line, okay? By cutting along that line, you end up with, so that's my die. And you, like I say, and it's the same with the other one as well, this poppy one. You will do exactly the same thing. You have to line it up at a 45-degree angle. So let's bring the poppy one in to quickly show you. So both of them work like so. So you can see the grain. Okay. So you have to have them on that 45-degree angle. Okay. For them to be able to give you this lovely grain effect. And then you take your leaf, because like I say, if you cut them in twos, you will have to snip them out. You will have to snip down that line. And we've done it like this because when you're actually doing your Fleurs flower forming foam or you're using your cardstock, it gives you an over the edge. So when it gives you an over the edge, you cut through and it gives you that centre line straight away for your actual leaf vein. Okay, so that's why we've done it over the edge and in the middle. So now, bring in my little wire. I've got my two pieces. Can you see that we've already got that fabulous vein in? It's brilliant. A little bit of bead of glue down this centre, like so. This is where you need to store your wires properly. Don't let them get all hiddledy-piddledy, because you need them straight to be able to do this. So I've been using that, haven't I? So if I lay this on here to the edge, like so, and then I just press down with my finger, a little bit more glue along that edge, and then bring in this next one, and you overlap top and bottom, and again I just press that down like so. It couldn't be any easier. Sometimes I run my thumbnail down the edge to actually increase that so you can see the wire. Flip it over and I'll do the same thing at this side. But how fabulous is that leaf now, because all the veining is in it, and you can still add a little bit of shape. Just pull on it a little bit, add that tiny little bit of shape, or again go in and we can add a little bit of ink to the edges, exactly how you would like. And I love the colour pack that we've got with this one. It is beautiful because it also gives the opportunity of all the colourways that we've got going on to do an autumn wreath, because we've got that beautiful, beautiful brown in there as well, and the creams. So in the end, you will have, I've done this so you can see the comparison. So that's our lovely little flower, our lovely little leaf. But look how big we can go with some of these. Aren't they fabulous? So these truly are statement pieces. And if I lay them together like that, you can see how using your die on that 45-degree angle really gives you that beautiful veined look on your leaf straight away. Aren't they fabulous? So that is our lovely festival of flowers, Fleurs. So I hope you have fun making yours. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch or have a comment. Anything that you ask on there, we will answer for you, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Have fun, get them all out the packets. I'd love to see what you're making as well, because I'm sure you'll all have lots of other different ways of using all of these, and also all of your flowers that you're making. So thank you very much for coming along and joining me and getting the collection, and I'll see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye.
If you want to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you click the like button. Subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and click the bell icon to receive notifications of all of our future content. You can also click here to see our latest video, or click here to see more videos like this one.